This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. I have the Christmas. Gosh, I can't open a show. I either get the number wrong with Frank, I say something wrong. I have the Christmas sweat. They call it a sweater. It's more of a sweatshirt. The Christmas sweatshirt for BTL available in the BTL merch store on BassZone.com. And we'll just take care of all the stuff right off the top. Also, if you remember a couple weeks ago, we had a bestontour.net giveaway. There's their November winner right there for the gear giveaway for the Best on Tour. Jeff Fulgham, he won that. And then we're doing another one in December. That is an AFCO Reaper. Just go to bestontour.net, and that is available for all new subscribers. It's just like a weekly newsletter. It has everything that's going on in the industry, completely free to sign up. And my title sponsor for the 2023 Bassmaster Open season. All right, had a great show with James Niggemeyer yesterday, talking about his move to the Open EQs and the reality. Boy, we went through the list of the anglers that are leaving the invitationals to go over and fish the Bassmaster Open EQs, and I was surprised at how many, I guess I would say, veterans are looking at a kind of try to restart their career or go back and fish at the open level. After that, we talked about the team championship there on Hartwell, the last major tournament of the year. The classic field is now set, and I'll have to ask our guest today because I think there are still some derbies, some tournaments, some team tournaments going on with MLF as far as filming for the team series, where they all are Bluetooth connected, and then there's teams of 3 guys, and then it's filmed and then it airs on TV. Something that I've been excited to see after that pilot episode down in Florida launch. So we will get to our guest today, which is none other than, you're back in Coleman now? You're no longer in Gunnersville?
Smith Lake, Coleman area, yep.
Coleman, Smith Lake area, which is where you're originally from, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so the Gunnersville thing was, lasted 6 years?
Yes, 4 to 6. We'll call it 5. We'll call it 5. We'll meet in the middle. Yeah.
Matt Lee.
I'm an hour away.
Matt Lee, you're a veteran, man. You've been doing this 8 years now. Does it seem like it's crazy to say that, 8 years?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like a lot of things. The weeks, the months go by slow, but then the years is I think I wrote a check the other day and almost put 21 on it as the year. Like it just is a blur.
When you fish at the top level now, you qualified for the Elite Series, 2015 was your first year?
Yes, 14 are qualified. Yeah, 15.
So, does it feel? Do you ever reach a point where you're comfortable? You feel established? You're like, this is my jam, or is it always every year? It's like, made it another year, got to figure it out another year. Do you reach that comfort level where you're like, all right, I've gotten past the hard stuff. Now, let's focus on life. This professional fishing is always going to be here for the future.
Well, fishing's real interesting in that in baseball, for instance, you got Bryce Harper comes on, the hot new phenom every time. And in fishing, you end up, no matter what you do, you go to a lot of the same lakes. And so to me, there's a side of it where the more years you're in it, you've been to a lot of these places, so you kind of know what to expect. So that aspect of it changes a lot when you get a few years into it. So you talk about, I mean, you just name off lakes: St. Clair, Mille Lacs, Champlain, Okeechobee. You've been to, and so that really helps you kind of know what to expect just overall. And every time it's different, a lot of these lakes, but that's a big part of it in fishing, because golf courses, if you're a golfer, they change up, but not like lakes. Lakes in the fishing element of things is totally different.
You were kind of the first wave of the young guys who came on and immediately competed for checks, for classics, for event wins. I mean, obviously you had Derek Remitz, you had Casey Ashley, you have some guys, your brother Jordan, you had a Jacob Wheeler who come on. But I feel like you're seeing that a lot more. Guys coming out of high school or college or the Opens, or look at what Dakota Eber did this past year on the pro circuit, just coming out and competing. Like I said, you were kind of that first, I guess, real wave back in the kind of early 2010s. Have you noticed that guys are coming onto the top level of the tour now and are just immediately competitive, that there's no real kind of feeling out time period?
Yes, it's, I mean, fishing's growing every year. To me, I happened to be the perfect age, got into it at the perfect time, and had, and made it count when I needed to through that college series, winning the national championship, getting a spot in the classic, had the perfect platform. If I was 4 years older and they didn't give away that classic spot, how my story would have been so different. So fishing as a sport has grown. I would say, where guys are starting to figure it out earlier and earlier. Now you have high school teams that now you have seventh graders fishing on high school teams across the country. And they're, with technology the way it is, everybody says that, but it's so true. You can catch on so much faster, and these kids have access to so much more. And so by the time they get to college, they're dialed in. I mean, they've been out live scoping, watching YouTube videos, and fishing all the time. It just makes the learning curve that much quicker now than I think it was.
We've always talked about time on the water. Everyone always talks about, you can't replace time on the water. There's no substitute for time on the water. I'm starting to believe, especially over what I've seen the last year and a half, that there may possibly be a substitute for time on the water, to where you can get good without as much time on the water, as long as you know what to get good at off the water, so you're maximizing your time on the water. Is that a fair assessment, Matt?
There's a weird thing, like here's a side note, like the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of, that's something that I brought to my attention years ago, and I've kind of thought on it, is do you reach a point where you're kind of, I don't know, where that learning curve, it changes. You know what I'm saying? It's not just you start at the bottom corner and then you're trying to get to the top right corner and it's a straight line. Like to get that start, like that, okay, the Opens, if you looked at that schedule, to be competitive on those lakes next year, is there, it's easy to say learning curve, but there's different levels of it's does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I'm starting to think maybe some of that 10,000 hours can be done off the water, to where you're molding technology and things off the water. So, it might be 10,000, but it might not be all 10,000 on the water. Whereas, 15 years ago, you didn't have Google Earth, you didn't have the mapping, you didn't have the YouTube and the information. And this is, I've had conversations with guys over the past couple months about this, to where you're starting so far ahead of where you used to start in this sport.
Yeah, for sure. And there still is a huge learning curve. There's just more. I think it's easier to achieve to get to that level, you can do it faster. You can do it off the water. And then also there's more competition than there's ever been at that level. So you see somebody like you mentioned, Eber, which, I like to think I'm the same age as him, but I got several years on him now. But that, he's competing out of a pool of people that's even more than it used to be. And then he's at the top of that pool. So there's even, the learning curve's faster and you have more people doing it and makes the competition even higher. And then, the cream of the crop is even better than it was, kind of like.
So if everyone has access now, everyone's media savvy, everyone has technology savvy, everyone has the YouTube tools, everyone has the mapping tools, everyone knows this. What is it that separates then the guys who catch them versus the guys who don't? Because we're talking about it, we're saying, hey, all these guys coming out are good right off the bat because of this, but there's still a ton of guys that have it and still haven't made that jump. Is that a natural talent thing? Is that a luck thing? What is it then that separates the Ebers, the guys on the BPT, that from the bigger pool that you just talked about?
I think it's a combination, but here's one for you. So I think that in fishing it's comparable. I try to compare it to other sports, but it's totally different than every other sport. But like if you spent a gazillion more hours than Aaron Judge in the batting cage taking fastballs, but like he did it for 100 hours, you did it for 10,000 hours. No matter how hard you work at it, are you ever going to be does that apply to fishing? Like, let's take golf. Take a guy on the web.com. If he works harder at it than Jordan Spieth or Tiger Woods ever did at golf, does he still achieve? Does he max out? I mean, you take a sport that take a sport where it's really not, Aaron Judge. I mean, you're not 6'7", 280
right,
or whatever, but take a sport where your actually athletic build is not as much of a factor.
Like hockey. You just have a lot of guys that are the same. Like, look at the best guys at hockey. Like Wayne Gretzky's like 5'10", 170.
Yeah, there's definitely
tennis,
there's hand-eye coordinate. There's
golf.
Yes, yeah. Like we did a side note pro event with some ex MLB players, and I was with Mike Greenwell, and we were talking about. He thinks that definitely with baseball, there's a different level of hand-eye coordination with baseball players that
that you're born with.
That like you are just that much better at seeing the slider and the fastball at 97. So I really think in fishing there is, Jordan Lee being my brother, where you might have heard of him before, that there's something to that that's you can't put your finger on. It's in instincts, like I don't know the exact word you use, but that's what it's that natural decision instinct.
So is he like that in everything else in life, or is it literally just fishing?
No. So here's things too. Like if you notice a lot of people that are really and this does not apply to everybody, but I think there is something to be said for people that are extremely, I'm talking the best at what they do. More times than not, is that the only thing that they're not saying the only thing that they're good at, but is that is their like purpose. They're is there two types of people that are pretty good at a lot of things, and people that are excellent at a couple, or kind of, I don't think that's just you can make that a written rule, a law, but I think there's something to that too, where, even though people get us confused all the time, like growing up, like I've always had my hands in different things. I've always like baseball and then computers, and I'm always
tinkering
with. I mean, I'm like pretty good at a lot of different things. I don't have one thing. Like, and with my brother, it was, up until like 13, 14 years old, he, did different things as a kid, but like from that 14, 15, like it's fishing, like it, and like that's not only all he cares about, that's like really what his talent is, like what, God put him on this earth to do, as like it really, like it wasn't a surprise to me. Like, yes, this is a surprise that your brother's like back-to-back classics. You can't predict that, but you're around him enough that you can't put it on paper, and then everybody else starts to figure it out. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Like he has that level of instincts that, like, it's like you see Hackney and flipping, and you're like, oh, I want to be Hackney and I want to go flip. But I don't know if you flipped every day from now to the day you died, you would ever have instincts like him, like when it comes to that, like it's interesting.
Do you think there are two? So you're a 1%er. Dude, you're on the BPT. You've done this for 8 years. You've qualified for every single championship. You've top 5. You've top 10. You're 1%er. You're one of the most talented anglers in the world. Fact. But it sounds to me like you're saying there's 2 levels of top level professional angling. Now we're talking about this 1%. Let's take Elite Series and BPT guys. Yeah. You're saying there's naturally talented guys that maybe not even maximize their ability, but then that level below, are there grinders who have manifested their desire to be a professional angler then? So there's some that, I mean, this is basically easy to them, is what you're saying, it sounds like. And then others that can grind and do it, but there's 2 different levels.
And I think that
you agree with that, though? I mean, that's what you're saying?
I would throw that out there to say, like look in other sports. Like, look at Tyreek Hill. You're telling me there isn't people that work harder than Tyreek Hill at football? Or, there's, I think in every different sport, I think there's that top percent, and then there's different levels. And I would like to see, I don't know as much in other sports as I do fishing, of course, but like in other sports, I'm sure there's people that take golf or take anything. Like I would venture to say baseball, it doesn't matter, that there is different levels at the top level. Like, just throw a name out. I mean, just you follow more sports than I ever thought about following, so all. But I think that's
that makes sense. So, do you think that there are Jacob Wheelers and Kevin Van Dams and Brandon Poliniks and guys out there who have just never been exposed to fishing who can still pick it up if they're introduced to it? Or do you think that critical time, that 10 to 15 years old when you're still developing, like for those freak show phenoms, have to have it ingrained in them during a developmental time? Or can you have a freak of nature who picked it up later in life? Because think about it in fishing. We've had guys on the Elite Series. We've had guys on the BPT. There are currently guys here who didn't start fishing till later in life. But name me a dominant person in the history of competitive bass fishing who didn't pick up fishing until he was in his 20s.
I think it makes it that much harder because you don't have that base. I mean, that kind of goes back, and that's going to, kind of override the 10,000 rule thought, because you could work really hard at it starting at 30 years old and never picked up a rod before, and maybe catch somebody and get to that 10,000, and then you max. I think there's that. I think that people could not pick up a rod to 20 years old, 21, 22, and then be in that level that's their gift, but it's that much harder. I think if you wait too far, then it's too hard to pick. I mean, there's always an exception to the rule, but
that's probably in anything though. Like, you're not going to see a grandmaster chess guy who just decided at 30 and then he's beating the Russians at it.
Yeah. Which you
probably
like
a Bobby Fischer or something.
You could, but maybe it'd be that much harder. You don't have that.
It's an interesting conversation because in fishing, everyone's trying to get better. Like everyone listening to this show.
Yeah.
You're trying to get better. You're trying to get better. I'm trying to get better. Everybody's trying to get better, and you're trying to take little information and take something and then turn it into something that gives you an advantage on the water to catch more fish than the other guy. And in the end, it seems like the higher you get, the more similar everyone is. There's more. It seems like there's more of the pack mentality, and then you just have the freak shows that are just out there on their own. Or the guys that's even crazier to me are the guys that constantly are doing the same thing just better than everyone else.
Yep.
Like a Hackney.
Yep.
Like you'll go into a tournament where everyone's flipping bushes, they'll beat everyone by 10 pounds.
Yep.
It's interesting stuff.
It is. It is.
All right, when we come back, I want to build on that grinder. I wasn't really planning on using this as a transition, but it's a beautiful transition because I have your stats for the last couple years, and you live on a very razor thin line the majority of time when you launch the vessel, Matt.
Yes.
But I think there's some stuff that can be learned from that. So we'll dive into that, some of your stats from the past couple years, and maybe some tidbits that some of the listeners can pick up.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, BTL on a Tuesday. Alabama's Matt Lee. You're in your shop. Like I said, there are a couple people that said it looked like you maybe were on like a prison release deal with all of the gray behind you.
Like a refrigerator room, and I'm trying to make it into like an office space. It's a side little room in the shop down here. So the top room's behind me, and that was where the office was, but it was almost so much junk, cool fishing stuff / junk that I was like, I gotta move. So I just like painted this room and like moving into it. You can't.
I like it. It's kind of it's trendy. I like it. It's trendy. It's sleek.
Like green, honestly, like it's it's hard to paint OSB board white, so I'd had to go a little bit darker. But yeah.
All right, we'll be back. BTL on a Tuesday with Matt Lee.
Introducing HDS Pro. Watch fish reacting to your lure live with Active Target 2. Get game-changing clarity in the megahertz range with the new Active Imaging HD sonar. Find the richest fishing spots with C-Maps charts. Take full control of your boat with the ultimate fishing system. HDS Pro. The more you see, the more you catch.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Hey guys, Gerald Swindle representing the AFCO Hydronaut. This is the jacket I love wearing when times is tough, and I'm talking about the weather, not the fishing. The jacket, what I like, I got a double cup right here. I can seal up the bottom of my jacket because when you're fishing, you're holding your arms up. You're bad about getting water that runs downhill. Everything bends good. I'm long arm. Look, it fits very comfortable. My arms is flexible. I've got the speed hood on, pouring down rain. I can get everything zipped up. One thing they did is they made plenty of pocket space. If you ain't got enough pockets in the Hydronaut rain suit, you just got too much stuff. From the water membrane, that's 30K, baby. 30 times the reason you ain't gonna get wet. Super warm. If it's cold in the wintertime, you put on your Hydronaut, you're gonna be a much more comfortable person. If you don't want to just look sexy at Dairy Queen, wear your Hydronaut. We got it from small to 5X. Most rain gear does not come in that many sizes. You got waist adjusting straps. We can make it fit you. No matter what the environment is, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to be dry. You gotta check it out. It ain't gonna let you down.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday. A lot of chatter in the instant feedback about our first segment there. Here's the so here's the one thing, Matt, that we didn't really talk about. You know, we were trying to compare it to other sports and stuff, and you mentioned you think that bass fishing is unique, but here's where it differs. Take any other individual sport, golf, tennis, chess, pick another individual sport where there is a pool of enthusiasts numbering in the thousands that could beat the number one guy in the world on any given day.
Yep. Well, I kind of would say to that too. Like if Tiger Woods and I lined it up on a par 3, I could beat him. Even a par 5, I could beat him. But if we were to play 18, not a chance.
Right. So you take a full day of fishing. There's guys that can beat Kevin. There's you do that. There's guys that could beat Wheeler, guys that could beat you, guys that could beat Chrissy, guys that could beat that, which is where it is kind of weird because it doesn't exist in any other sport. Like if I do a one-on-one or anything in any other top-level professional sport against the best in it, I have a 0% chance of beating any of them. Yep. But I'd say most of our listeners today, most of the guys in the club tournament, dude, you got a shot to go out on Guntersville and beat you. You got a shot to go out on Guntersville and beat Jordan. You got a shot to do any of that. Now, over a long period of time, I think is where you see it, which is why I think the Angler of the Year is so valuable to anglers because it talks about the longevity. But that's why I think this conversation will go on and on and on because the fishing is unique compared to anything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that has to be because of the element of luck. Or not the element of luck, but the number of uncontrollable variables.
Yes.
That's what makes it an infinity discussion, is the number of uncontrollable variables that there always has been and always will be.
Yes, which is a fancy way to say different kinds of luck. You know, I mean, anybody, it's an infinite discussion. You go out middle of Guntersville and throw out 4 times and hook 4 8-pounders on the right day.
But then the skill is the guys who seem to always come in and, quote, get lucky. And you're like, dude, you've been getting lucky for 15 years. At some point, it's not luck. You're putting yourself in a better position to succeed. And then it comes down to, is it hard work or is it natural given talent?
Yeah. And then we could do a Joe Rogan 4-hour podcast on that.
Do you think there's just people that are bad at fishing? Like, do you think there's people that love it that just, for some reason, are just bad at it? Or do you think everybody with proper instruction and work can become proficient, competitive fishermen, tournament fishermen, if that's their dream?
You know, I don't think, if I had to think of somebody that I've fished with that was bad at it, that put in an insane amount of time doing it, I couldn't think of anybody. Like, if I fish with somebody that I thought's really not that good of a fisherman, I've never been like, gosh, but he puts in 5 days a week doing it, and he's, it's always somebody that comes out like, I think there's different levels of how hard it can be for somebody. It's hard to put in that much
time and not become proficient at fishing.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like golf. Like there's somebody that's just not coordinated enough to swing a club, but if they swung it enough times, you're gonna be able to hit the ball clean. Surely.
You've been golfing a lot lately? I recently got back into it.
No, not lately, but off and on.
I wish I'd never put it down. Like I get real obsessive over it. Like every single day, 18 or 36 holes, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get out there and break. I started, I was realistic. Break 90, break 80, get back, or break 85. Let's be honest, I'm not shooting in the 70s, but 82, 83, something where you're enjoying a round.
Yeah, hitting the ball clean more times than not.
Yeah, that's what flushing it.
Yeah,
that's where the crazy thing is. We saw the massive explosion in fishing on YouTube with challenges and all that, and being in the industry, I always appreciated and respected it, but didn't understand the draw to it. Well, getting back into golf, I've gotten hooked on Bob Does Sports and the Good Guys. And
have a day.
Yeah, have a day. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the draw for the YouTube fit because I'm invested in that with the golf because I enjoy it. It's nice to see guys, like Bob shanking it or guys who are playing good. I'm like online looking at the good putter, seeing, hey, is that worth like $300? Because I've got like an old, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm one of the people who relates to the YouTube fisherman. I'm that guy for golf. I'm sure the tour level guys at golf are like, how the heck are these guys getting more views than our entire tour? And they're shooting in the 80s and 90s, but I like relate to them. I get it. I enjoy it. I put it on the big screen and watch it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I totally get it.
All right, grinding. Here's some stats. So let's start with the beginning of your career in 15. These are your AOY finishes, and we're talking 113 anglers to 80 anglers, depending on the year, mix between Elite Series and the BPT. 65th, 82nd, 25th, 64th, 53rd, 58th, 44th, 37th. Now, in that, you have you obviously had the Classic through the college bracket, but you had a 25th to qualify for the 2018 Classic, and you had a 37th to qualify for the upcoming Red Crest. So multiple Classic, you have top 25s and top 40 finishes. Your average over your 8-year career is 53.5. That's your average finish. Now, depending on whether it's the Elite Series or the BPT, well, you're pretty much right on the Mandrosian line of $10,000 check, no $10,000 check, and going into the last two events where if you catch them, you're in the championship. If you don't, you're not in the championship.
Yeah. Or usually I'm so far behind, but I catch them because it's a smallmouth place.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's got to be a tough place. That's got to be a tough place to live on the line basically every single year, dude.
Yeah. You almost get numb to it. After a while, you kind of get numb to it because it's weird. Goes back to the whole conversation with the can of worms we opened. If I was to try that much, you're like, man, if you always have buddies that are like, dude, you're gonna win the next one. Oh yeah, you're gonna win the next one, or gosh, I was pulling for you to catch them and I didn't catch them or something. Fishing's insane. I mean, and it goes back. We can go so many different ways with this, and I don't know the answer to anything. I wish somebody had the answer that could be like, Matt, you could do this, this, and this, and change it from a 53rd average to a 15th average. But I think there's times, everybody, when you've been doing something for seven years now, there's times when there was a part of that 7 years where Abby and we were in a fifth wheel and traveling around the country and going from tournament to tournament and staying at lakes in between tournaments, doing the whole like like all in. And then I think one of those years was one of those 60, 70 years. And then the next year I have 4 top 12s. I think it was like 17, and hadn't even been to Dardanelle before, and I usually pre-practice any lake that I'd not been to. And I look back at that year and those top 12s and like, gosh, Matt, why don't you just try to duplicate what you did there? Like that, and I look back at every one of those tournaments, and it was I can't put my finger on anything. Like at Dardanelle, I just roll in a pocket and it looks beautiful and there's fish there, and I fish there every day, and I happen to have it to myself, and it was easy. At Toledo Bend, I went into a creek and it had grass, and I'm pretty sure it was called 6 Mile, but wasn't real sure. Started catching them on chatterbait, and then ended the first day, last cast catching a 7.5, had it choked. And then, like you just look back at things in fishing that happen, and it goes back to that, like kind of, if you're around anybody that fishes that has won tournaments, they all tell you, it's a cliche, but if it's your time, it's your time. And it's just really, it's a mind game. I mean, fishing at any level, any sport is, but fishing is just, gosh, like we talked a little bit about you in the opens, and it's like, all right, Pang, I want you to go out next year and you give it your all, and you're going to win 3 of them. Like you're, it's kind of, it's kind of,
you can't manifest it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't. So there is, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I gave every event I've been in my career 100%. And you don't even, like, I hate to even use that. Like, even growing up, my parents would be like, did you give 100% in that class on that test? And you're like, well, what is 100%? Like the first term of the year at Kissimmee, like, should I be down there right now sleeping on the bank, camping out in a tent and fishing it every day?
Yeah.
So I don't know, we go a lot of different ways with it, but yeah, it's of course, for me, I'm the one living in that scenario that you read out on paper right there. So it's a lot. This is what you do for a living. I fish every tournament to win the tournament. I'm not there just to have a good time. It's what I do for a living. I want to win the event. And then after a while, I'm a realist in the fact that I like to look at numbers and see if it makes sense. And everything has to have a reason. So that drives me even more nuts when I read that paper or you read it off. It's just like,
So your finishes this year, 36th, 20th, 67th, 24th, 28th, 51st, and 45th. Your best year on the BPT. What is something that was an overarching theme throughout the year that you did really well, that allowed you to have? You didn't have. 67th was your lowest, but other than that, 51st. Dude, that's a strong season by any standard. You finished 37th in the points. What's something that you were like, man, I did this really well this year?
Here's an answer for that is 2 words: cared less. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of times going back to the numbers, like, have to add up in my mind, and like working harder at it. Sometimes I think in fishing that you can be so much can be on the line, and you're so caught up in what you're doing that you're not just, you override instincts. You're like thinking so hard about how to get this next bite that you're not just going fishing. And like everybody says these terms in fishing, like, just go fishing, just have fun.
Fishing free.
Fish free today, Matt. Go fish free, boy. And, like, I think that for me, I've kind of realized that it's not that I said don't care just to make, like, that was like a news headline, don't care. But to just, like, don't think about the event, don't think about the points, don't think about really anything. Don't stress over it. Like, I'm one that I can stress really too much over, like even just in life in general, over stuff that really doesn't matter as much. Everything, it's got to be a certain way. And so that's just kind of my personality type. And then I can translate that into fishing, where I'm not, not making enough of, I'm not just going fishing. I think there's something to that.
All right. So I came up with it. This is the end all be all.
All right.
Successful tournament fishing at any level is about maximizing your potential. So hear me out here. I feel like there are some guys who might benefit from being down at the lake camping and on Florida right now for 2 months and getting him in that warrior mindset.
Where's
there
the
might
first
also
next year?
Eufaula, Alabama. Never been there before.
You should be there right now.
I'm serious. So here's my thing. Ironically enough, Boyd Duckett said this on the show 5 years ago, and it stuck with me. He said he tries to do, he's a busy guy. He's got plates fairly full.
Yeah.
He said he tries, this was just that year. I don't know if he's still subscribed to this, but he said, I try to do one thing every day to get ready for what's next, whether it's the season, whether it's a tournament, whether it's something. He's like, so if I have business meetings and everything, if for 5 minutes I can go out to my boat in the garage and organize my swim bait hooks, he goes, that gets me thinking about that first tournament where I plan on throwing a swim bait. He goes, or at lunch break, I pull up a map and look at it and say, these are some interesting channel swings that might be he said it has nothing to do with it. He said, but by the time you do that every single day leading up to it, he goes, you've been busy, you haven't been on the water, but you just have this sense of preparedness. So I've tried to kind of take that little piece of advice going into this year.
Yeah.
But maximizing potential. So maybe for you, maximizing potential is not overthinking it. For someone else, it might be obsessing over it. For one guy, it might be 2 weeks on the water. For someone else, it might be total map study. So then it comes back to the mind thing, knowing yourself and maximizing your potential, because it works different for everyone. Because you room with what, Jesse and Jordan?
Yeah.
Do they do stuff everyone does stuff differently. Like they would prepare differently than you do for a tournament.
Absolutely. And I that's what I always analyze people, and that's what you try to take little bits and pieces from is all the different people, I always make jokes about Jordan fishing, but literally like always, I'll tell somebody, I saw a bird when I was running down the lake. I thought, you know what? The mat looks good, and pulled over there, flipped in it, and caught a 9. And like, it's funny, but like that literally happens to him, but he does not overthink. If I could say one thing about my brother, like his instincts, but he doesn't overthink. He's always trying to make decisions, but not overthinking. I always say that people ask about fishing and it being hard. I think fishing is super easy. Anybody can go out there and throw a swim jig for 8 hours. But when you're making decisions from the time your boat hits the water to you get off the water, that's the hard part. But if you try to force that too much, where you're just like stressing over what's my next decision, then you're not like stressing over where you're going to start in a tournament the first day of the year, the first tournament of the year, first day of the year, stressing over it instead of just like, I'm around too many people that just act like they don't care. I might start on that second spot down there on the left, and they end up just having an unbelievable day.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy wasn't even for sure he was going to even start there. And I'm around too many of those guys, and I'm over here trying to, I ought to have Abby, my wife, on the podcast with me, because she hears it as much as anybody, that just my mind and what I'm thinking. And sometimes it's just way too much. Like you're doing too much. Like it is bass fishing. I mean, and so there's an aspect to it like that.
Aaron's kind of ahead of the game here. He said, I think that's where fun fishing can sometimes give you a fresh perspective. So if you're only making those pressure decisions in tournament days and you're only pre-practicing and you're not spending time on the water just fishing, figuring it out when there is no pressure, don't you think that decision making is something you can practice on the water? You can dump your boat in, you can get on a swim jig bite, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go see if I can figure them out cranking. And you can run through a ton of different scenarios in different parts of the lake and make decisions based on the feedback that you're given. And that actually improves your ability to do that on tournament day then.
Yes, and I think there's definitely, like, even from an amateur level, when you're trying to learn fishing, that I get guys I fish with all the time that have never caught them on X bait, Y bait, but a lot of times they go fishing and they're stuck in whatever they used to catch them on. And if you really find, if the fishing's pretty good, you get caught up. You're not trying different things. A guy like at your level, you've tried everything in your boat twice and then some. But there's a lot of people out there that they just don't experiment enough. They dump the boat in and they're trying to catch fish, trying to catch one, like they're in a tournament. And I love fun fishing for that reason, is that I can, just go out and there's not something online. And I also, on a different note, there's guys that rush, like, that really want to become professionals. But I do think there's something at that professional level. You're fishing enough events, you don't have a lot of free time to, like, fun fish. And guys maybe don't just fun fish as much, so you don't get time to try new techniques or to be at new lakes. There was back that group of guys like Lucas that came in and fished the FLW Tour as a co before they went pro for years, and they're like riding around with, hanging out with the best of the best.
Stetson Blaylock.
Yeah, 2-3 years before you go, and then, like, do that. They got in that 2-3 year period is more valuable than anything they'll learn out doing it themselves. Fishing. Yeah, I can go down that rabbit hole too. But
wasn't there a couple years there where you did not have a hard or a soft bait? Like, I always see you talking about all sorts of different brands and baits and different stuff. Is that you still on that train?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to go with that too. So with we can go down the sponsor rabbit hole with that if we wanted to go there, but
that's up to you. I mean, we can go down any rabbit hole we want to. It's your call, or we could mix it.
You asked the question.
I just thought it was I thought it was very interesting because I see you talk. You're all you were on IG and Facebook and stuff, and it's always something different. It's not like the same three things over and over again.
Yeah. You're talking about as like bait.
Yeah, different brands, different bait companies, different types of plastic, all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, well, like as from a sponsorship perspective, I would love to represent one brand and have one boat, one truck, and one that I really like, and keep that same thing for my whole career. But the problem runs into is a lot of companies are bought out, a lot of companies switch management. A lot of, you might have where in fishing sponsorships, in any level, sponsorships in general, you hope that you and whoever you're working with are kind of on the same page as far as, if I can help you grow, then you help me grow, and my deal gets better as the company grows, but it doesn't work out like that. And from an angler's perspective, you can kind of choose to, there's everybody's different. So some anglers just don't care. Like if you give them like a June bug crickets, they'll take that and they're just trying to go fishing and have a good time. And some guys are fortunate enough to be with a brand and be a staple in that brand. And so they're going to be there for the foreseeable future, and they have that relationship, and it's worked out. And for me, in the last 4 or 5 years, it has been that where the brands I've been with, for whatever reason, it's not stuck. It's not you get change of management a couple times, and then one was kind of false promises, and so it's just relationships and working together, like in any business, just like it is sponsorships, it changes. So yeah, I've had several different bait companies, and so that works. can ask a follow-up if you want to. I just don't know.
You've thrown that. Doesn't Depps make that like heavy poop thing or whatever it's called? Cover scat.
So
how does that thing work?
Yeah, so Depps in general, not to just go on a huge plug here, but
no. I'm asking because I've seen you. I'm pretty sure I've seen you with some videos with the cover scat.
Yeah, you like that cover. I knew you would.
No, I've never thrown it. I've never owned one. I have no idea how to tie it on or fish it. It looks absolutely ridiculous. I feel like it would be a regression in my fishing to tie that thing on. But then to see guys like you and stuff, it seems like it's a very viable thing.
So the thing about Depps, so there's a lot of bait companies out there, everybody knows. And there's a lot of stuff out there that catches more fishermen than it does fish. Okay. And there's what we like to call Mickey Mouse. There's a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff on the shelves that just somebody needed another SKU for something with a bill on it. So they just painted one up in this bright orange color and stuck it up on a Walmart shelf, seeing if it would go. So Depps does not make one. They do not make one thing that they just made just because they needed to make some money or put something out there. They didn't have to come up with a SKU. They didn't have to we need to tweak this around a little bit more so we can make more money on this type of lure. There's nothing. Everything they make has a purpose. And I'm still learning because a lot of it is, I'm fascinated in a lot of things that I know now as far as fishing goes, the techniques that we got from out west. And then a lot of people out west got those same techniques from people in Japan. And this is kind of like firsthand seeing a lot of so for instance, the cover scat is a heavy salted plastic that the 3.5-inch version sinks like it's I would say it's like similar to like a 3/16 ounce weight.
Yeah, there it is right there. I pulled it up on Omni Fishing.
Yeah. And the reason that it was invented, it is like little plastic pieces of gold in Japan, is because on Lake Biwa, I'm fascinated with all this stuff. On Biwa, there's grass, but there's also a lot of offshore rock and really gnarly rock. And you almost can't, the way Kenna Kumar explains it, is like you can't throw anything in there. And there's some West Coast stuff like this too that I've heard, like you can't throw a drop shot in there because it will hang up and you'll break it off.
Okay.
And so they designed a bait like this that you can fish weightless at a deep depth and it never snags. So it sinks like imagine throwing a 3/16 shaky head. That's how fast it sinks because it has that much salt. So you can fish bait like that weightless, so it does not going to snag and also kind of along that lines, and I think always say the lightest weight you can get away with the best. Something that falls natural is better, the less weight the better. So when you cast out a worm, when you cast out a shaky head, this matters a lot in fishing, but it doesn't, if you're fishing in a pond, it doesn't. If you cast out a worm, it sinks like it's a tube, it's not going to fall straight. But if you cast this bait out, it's like it's natural because it's rigged weightless. So when you cast it out, it just flutters to the bottom, but it sinks really fast because of the salt in it. So it's actually like a real natural presentation compared to a lot of things that we throw. So it gets bites on top of that. But
okay. Can I ask you about another weird one that seems to be making? So I talked
20 minutes on about this thing. Go ahead.
No. I liked it. I talked a little bit with Alton Jr. about this and Bellows, the Bellows Guild deal. But then there's also seems to be like the new style there. Pure Fishing has that one that looks like a bluegill. But that's different. Yeah. This is like flippable. And we're seeing like Kenta doing some crazy stuff with this stuff on the Elite Series and the Opens. It's like flippable, flat, leaf/bluegill shaped plastics.
Yeah. So there's a guy
dove into that.
Guy that works for Optimum. That his name's Kaz, and his English is getting better. But I watched podcast that he did, and he was talking about how he likes to throw big swim baits, but he like catching them on this bull flat's too easy, so he doesn't throw as much. Yeah, he was serious when he wasn't bragging, he was serious. But that's one of those, like the bull flats one. In Japan, they don't have as many shad. They a lot of the bass feed on bluegill. That's their main forage. So this bait, but also it is. That's the bull flats one that like I try to get Kenan to like stay at my house for a month so I could just go fishing with him and he could just show me it, because I watch all kinds of videos and I fish it and I catch fish on it. But they do so much little different. I don't know where they got those pictures from, but
that's on Omnia.
Oh gosh, I don't know where the Japanese little rig
diagrams
they do or
yeah,
next level, like where they put nail weights in it and stuff. But
and it takes like 4 minutes a cast to get it down to like 18 foot.
Yeah. They do that with a cover scat, where they do that kind of strolling technique, like you've seen Shin Fukai do it a little bit, maybe. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to give out too much juice on here either.
No, I had a 19-year-old Japanese kid at Douglas, and I think he was averaging maybe 15 to 20 casts an hour.
A day?
An hour. 15 to 20 casts an hour. So, I mean, I wasn't moving. I was locked in on my 12 and a half, 13 a day, because, I mean, there's a point, culling ounces, and he just, there's one. And I think he caught like 6 the whole day, but his line was metered. He had the metered line. That hasn't really come over here yet. Sunline's messed around a little bit with the metered, but over in the overseas in Japan, so like you could, it's like chartreuse, brown, clear, chartreuse, metered line. Then like different, basically like a tippet, almost like a tippet in fly fishing. And then all sorts of little beads and swivels and snaps. So you have this weight that like it's like he had like a Japanese free rig, I think is basically what it was.
Yeah.
And then this little bitty plastic on a smaller than a 1/0, and it was a shape. And I mean, he had like 3 for 9.5 behind me.
Yeah. Yeah, they do some stuff like that. That's like, a lot of that stuff, I just haven't dialed in. It's one of those things where unless somebody shows you, it's really tough to watch a video on that and dial it in. Like even he was in your boat and you know what he was doing, but you really couldn't just go out and do it. Exactly.
Oh, I didn't have it. I didn't have any of the stuff. Like not a single piece of that equipment.
If you got the stuff, you would still like tomorrow and went out and tried to fish like he was fishing, like you would be. It's really detailed on what they do. You can't just like that free rig deal is another thing. Like is super popular that I've played around with that. I'm still there's times when all that stuff is like dynamite.
Is there anything out there now, which obviously you wouldn't give up, but is there anything out there now? Because, I mean, you're a bait guy, man. Like, you know what's up. You talk with a lot of guys. Is there a chatterbait, an A-rig? Is there one of those out there right now that in the next 3 to 5 years is going to blow up?
I don't think there's
like, is anyone fishing an industry-changing bait right now?
No, I don't think there's an industry changing, but there's just different techniques that are new that people haven't really figured out that can get you more bites. But it's not an industry change, like not that I know about. I don't know it all, but I know there's a few techniques out there that in the right situation that gets you more bites than just fishing like good old boy style. But
yeah.
Living here on Smith Lake, it's like at Gunnersville, I think there's a couple of deals that's starting to come along it's kind of going to change the way people fish a little bit, but it's not industry changing. Now, Smith Lake, you have clear water, so there's always new techniques in how to get fish to bite in that water, like a lot like Hartwell. But none of it's like you're going to go out and win every tournament doing it, but it just gives you more bites.
Smith Lake's a good learning lake then.
Smith Lake's phenomenal. I mean, Jordan and I fished a Good Friday tournament there, and there was 35 guys, and I think we finished 9th or 10th with 14 pounds, and Wiggins won with 19, and Gunners was a fantastic lake. The Smith Lake to me is very underrated, which is fine. And on Tuesday, I don't see anybody, and I can catch fish on top water on every point on the lake. And there's some good ones out there too. So I really like it.
Spotty's your favorite?
I love spotty. I love, I like using my grass to catch fish. So, I like fishing that way. But I also like flipping grass, punching. I mean, I like it all, really. Yeah. Except for on my record, I know that, like, if I go to a smallmouth lake or a clear or Tennessee River or smallmouth, I've got a decent chance to get a check. If I go to somewhere like the Sabine, that's a mud hole that you only get one bite a day, I really probably not going to get a check. But I kind of translated that into maybe that I'm versatile. I like to throw everything, kind of like you, like we'll throw it all. And that makes it that much harder, I think, to get dialed in on a deal when you can't get bites on anything that you throw. You're better off just picking one and rolling with it before you even show up at the ramp. And something that's been on my mind the last couple of years about going back to the record thing.
Yeah, when you're on the Elite Series, it's hard because the BPT doesn't really keep stats in order to figure out like where you are and what lake and stuff. You have to go back individually and do it for the years. But 12 out of your 15 top 30s with bass were on multi-species fisheries. That's pretty strong. Like when you go and it's just a largemouth deal, not your strong suit. But when you have spots in largemouth, spots, smallmouth, largemouth, smallmouth, you're pretty strong in those derbies.
Yeah, if the cut weight's really high, I'm pretty strong. If the cut weight's like low, I know that I'm not as good. If it's got grass, of course, I like fish grass. But and it's almost like, so I told Bobby about, we were talking about it at one point, Bobby Lane, and he was like, "So you're telling me you suck in muddy rivers?" And I'm like, "Well, that's one way to put it, Bob. I guess. Yeah, good point." So I guess I need to practice muddy rivers.
Yeah. Here's a question from Nick, and you've talked about this before. Guck's done stories and stuff. He said, "I would love to know how you manage your type 1 diabetes with your tournament fishing." He said he has it too, and he fights the takeoff spike. I fight the takeoff spike with the mid-morning low, if that means anything. And then a couple of different guys have been like, "Hey, I've got it too," and then talking about like being out in the middle of the lake if something goes down. Is that something that
so
wherever you want to go with that, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I found out when I was 20. My dad's a veterinarian, and he's always paranoid. "You look sick, son. You look, and I'm like, "Dad, I'm fine." So I came home, and long story short, I was, eating Waffle House, whatever you eat in college, and he's like, you lost weight, and I'd lost like 15 pounds, and I was like, "Yeah, I have lost weight." And he went and checked my blood sugar, and it was like super high. And he's like, "I think you're diabetic." So I've been a diabetic for 13 years, or known about it for 13 years, give or take. And I've never passed out from a low. So like for people that don't know, basically your normal blood sugar is like in the 100 range. If you get down 70, 60, you could you need to eat something or you could pass out. If you get real high, your blood sugar, you can have a lot of, I'm not a doctor, let me disclosure, but I usually get headaches. You feel real groggy, tired. And so I had an Animus Vibe pump, and now I have a tandem pump with a Dexcom sensor. And I change the sensor out every 7 days, and it Bluetooths to my phone and my pump to tell me what my blood sugar is every 5 minutes. So I don't have to prick my finger anymore like I used to. And my pump holds 100 units of, or no, backtrack, like 300 units of insulin, and it gives me X amount of insulin every hour, and then I bolus for whatever I eat. But I have different profiles on my pump. I can set, like, if I'm not active like I am this morning, I can have a normal setting, but then also I can tone it down on the amount of insulin I get if I'm out and active in a tournament. But I always keep like, I'm king of snacks in the boat. So I'll have peanut butter crackers. I'll have something like straight sugar, and I keep it a Ziploc bag in the back. And then usually more than one bag, just in case like I take the other bag out because I'm hungry at some point. So I always have and like keep a Sprite or something in the cooler. But I've never like had it gets low a lot when I fish, but I've never had an incident where I was caught out and it was low and I didn't have anything to get it back up or anything like that. So it's more of a management, just kind of an extra hassle in day-to-day life than it is like, big scare.
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. I said there's a couple people
people ask all the time.
I wondered what that was. It's T1D Steve is his name, so I'm assuming that's type 1 diabetes Steve.
Yeah.
And then Nick said he also has it, and Steve was just diagnosed this past winter, so he's trying to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah.
I know my dad has it too, but I'm not sure what type he has.
So, type 1 is like usually it's genetics, or it can be from a virus, and your pancreas stops producing insulin for whatever reason. It can be from stuff that they haven't even figured out yet. Type 2 is basically that your body is not producing enough insulin to keep up with kind of what you're putting in your body. So with exercise, better diet, and eating better, exercise better diet. But anyways, you can help your blood sugar levels. You take a pill maybe. Mm-hmm. But with type 1 diabetes, like my pancreas slowly just stopped producing insulin. So no matter how well I eat, or if I don't eat any carbs, my blood sugar will stay good. But exercise.
Type 1's more serious.
Type 1's, well,
they're both serious, but type 1 is considered more serious, right?
Yeah, well, type 1 is, but a lot of people that have type 2 are not in good health, so they're older, so it's actually, depends, but yes. Type 1 is like you need insulin. I can't just take that little whatever Truly or whatever the commercial is. I can't just take one of those once a day and be good.
Do you even think about it anymore, or is it just part of your life where you just go on with it and you know exactly what to do and it's not a big distraction?
Oh, yeah. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like,
twice a week.
Yeah. Every time I eat, I dial it up, what I got to do. And, I never really was a sweets person. Like, luckily it wasn't my brother or my wife that had diabetes, because they're both like bad sweets. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the diet part's not hard, but I have ups and downs and good times and bad times when I'm eating really good and then I'm eating stuff I shouldn't. And there's a lot of stuff coming out now. Like, I'm just thankful it's happening now and not in the 60s. They didn't even know how to treat it. And you're just like, good luck. Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff out there now.
Kind of, I guess, along the personal side, I saw you sticking signs in a yard on Instagram the other day, and your name was underneath it. Are you a realtor now? Like an actual realtor? Like, did you have to go to like school and all that stuff and take classes and
60-hour course on to take the test to get my license. So, long story with that is, so here's the deal. In fishing, a lot of people have other stuff that they do that some of them are more well known than others. Not everybody's Boyd Duckett and has got 12 different businesses or whatever, but most, from hanging out with a lot of guys have side hustles, whatever it might be. You got Cliff Prince is in Florida and he's got like his Porta John business on the side. Got everybody's got a little something. My thing is, I don't have any kids right now, and I have time enough in the off season to be doing something else. And I'm a tinker. Like, I can always find something to do. Like, I don't know how I find so much to do, but I can always find something to do. Like last winter, I built an office in the back of our shop for my wife. That was a project, but I'm just always can do something. But I always talked about starting a business, get in with a buddy, and kind of, if I start my own business, then I have to actually, then you can consume you where you can't get away to go fishing. and so I'm kind of limited. My degree is in industrial engineering, but I can't just go to apply at the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville for a job and say, hey, I need off for about, 4.5 months next year. So I've always been limited in what I could do, but I want to challenge myself with something else. The thing with fishing is I feel like I've been in it long enough now that if I was to devote, it's not exactly an exact correlation between time, energy, effort, and success from a winning standpoint, from a money standpoint. There's not that direct correlation. So I've been in it long enough that I'm like, I can fish and do this. It kind of goes back to like my success last year was like, just go fishing. I have enough time to be doing something else. So real estate, my mother-in-law sells real estate here on Smith. My wife, Abby, has a cleaning, like a Lake Home Solutions. It's a cleaning / concierge service on the lake that she started.
Oh, wow. And she's also a nurse, right?
Well, she used to be a nurse.
Oh, okay.
Now she does that. She started her own business. She has like 8 or 9 girls that work for her, and they, she takes care of a lot of people in Smith. They live in Massachusetts and have a lake house here that's $1 million house that they come to once a year. And hey, the cable guys come by. I don't have anybody to meet them there. Well, I'll go over there. And then also there's a lot of rentals on the lake. So she does a lot. But so real estate to me was like, okay, with that, with my mother-in-law doing it, I can do it. And kind of, I've never wanted like, gosh, I can't wait to be a real estate agent. But I think it's an opportunity for me. And it's something that I could I can easily get distracted. We talked about it kind of yesterday. My list of things to do or things that I wanted. Like last night I got home and I was looking at 3D models of houses and kind of how to do it online. Because you're kind of nerdy like me. Like I play on Adobe Photoshop and I can do all that computer stuff. So then the guy here that does 3D renderings of houses, he's backed up and can't even take anymore. I'm like pretty sure I could figure out how to do that. So start researching that last night. But it's hard for me to maintain focus. So real estate, I was like this summer, I'm like, I'm going to get my license and see what happens. And I'm going to I'm going to roll with it because, I don't want to turn around, blink and be 55 and be like, man, I had fun fishing for 25 years, but gosh, what if I would have just tried to do something else? There's kind of a ceiling in fishing that, like you went back to the whole guys in the top 1%. I think it's something that's not talked about a lot is the money aspect, the sponsor aspect. There's a lot of disclosures and agreements where you're not supposed to talk about money wise, but there's, how many guys are on a professional tour? 200. I'm going to throw out there that 25 of them make really good money, what I would consider really good money these days, and give or take. And then there's a lot that make a solid living, and then there's a lot that struggle. And I've seen it. I've been in it long enough now to see a lot of guys that they even have great years, but you're not guaranteed. You got to be making enough money in the great years to make up for the ones that aren't so great towards the end. There's no retirement plan. And, to me, I feel like if I've got time to be doing something else to get ahead while I can, get after it. It's a lot. Everybody wants to fish, like high school anglers call, like, I want to be a professional. I'm like, figure out how to make a lot of money, because if you have enough time and money, you can fish until you can go fish to try to qualify for professional level as long as you want to. There's no time frame. It's not like you're in college throwing a 99-mile-an-hour fastball and you better get to the big leagues before you get old enough that your body can't take it anymore. Like in fishing, there's, have that mindset where I know that you want to be a professional angler tomorrow, but honestly, once you qualify for it, money is as big of a factor as the fishing. And you've got to take that in consideration too when you're,
Yeah, I wish I had done more business classes in college instead of marketing and communications classes.
Yeah, to me, like I know decent at a lot of things, like you are, but like finance, taxes, that's something that was kind of like I didn't know as much, and I'm learning now because of real estate stuff. But everybody has to deal with money, and a lot of people out there use money in sly ways to make more money, and then they make more money. And
no, I found that in the opens as I've gotten to know a lot more guys being out there and traveling, and you meet guys and, you're sitting around going, well, how the hell do you have 175 guys out there spending 35 to 40,000 on an $1,800 entry fee where the only way 2% of the guys are making their money back. But then as you get to know guys, you're like, okay, this guy's 40 years old or this guy's 30 years old, but he spent 10 years building a business that he just sold for 7 figures, or he has a side business with 15 employees, and when he's not at the open, he's in his hotel room on the phone working on something, or he has 2 of these side businesses on the side. And then you start realizing, okay, yeah, there are the guys out here that are working the 9 to 5 that that maybe have a boss that let them off, and they are on credit cards and they are in debt. It is a total goat rope. But there's also a lot of guys who have their stuff together, and they're like, yeah, I'm 98% going to lose money on this, but I have busted my ass for this amount of time to be able to do this comfortably. Yeah. And they're smart dudes. It's not like they're risking everything to do it. And if they lose 30,000, they lose 30,000. They're prepared to do it because they put themselves in position to do it. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I always, goes back to the whole me fishing and fishing better. I always wondered, you go to Boyd Duckett, just use an example because everybody does. When he doesn't catch him at an event, or whenever he's as mad as I am. He is not happy. He's a competitor. Look at Gerald Swindle. He is he is not happy when he doesn't catch them. Mm-hmm. But is he depending on that money to pay? Dude, Boyd Duckett lost his classic check. They called him 11 months later when they were doing the books, and they're like, hey, we're $500,000 short. And then we went back through our books and realized you never cashed your classic check. And he went, huh. And he had to go back and look he found it in the front pocket of the suitcase that he took to the classic that was in storage. That's where he found the classic check for $500,000. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, that's a true story, man. How different would you fish if you're one of those guys how different would you fish coming out of college if you had, fishing's a lot different when you don't depend. There's a lot of guys. What's the turnover rate of guys that qualify for the top level and then don't last for 2 years and then they're in debt? Because you're not trained on any of that. As soon as you qualify, you're paying entry fees, and you are on your own to come up with $100,000 just to make a penny. And it is not a recipe for success. You gotta, my brother's one of the few people that actually make money just on tournament winnings that. I don't know what percentage of that, but you can do the math. That's not. That's well, the guys who could do that are we mentioned Aaron, Steve Kennedy, Jordan. The guys who go out and are consistently in the top, Kevin could have done it if he wanted to. Yeah. Yeah. And unless you can do that, you diversify, there is something to be said about that. Yeah. But even Kennedy, very smart with his money, very smart. I went and did that documentary with him, and I was like, okay, it's not like these guys, it seems like, by golly, I just go out and catch him and rely on my tournament winnings, but he's very smart with the tournament winnings he had and the stuff beforehand. Yes. That's smart. It's hard to see unless you're there. It's just like you talked about the opens. Until you get to know the guys, it just looks like everybody in here is just got a bad gambling addiction like I do. And there are a bunch of guys who do. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Maybe me included. I'm not excluding myself from that. Yeah. I know, I just know from my perspective, I've been fortunate enough. I don't have kids. I can make enough money to live off of by fishing. I'm going to make a check in about half the events I fish. You're right. Yeah. You look at my stats. And so I've done well enough with sponsors that I can afford to, but I'm not getting ahead. I look at my fishing career and I'm not stacking money back, preparing for retirement. And it's just
okay, should I go to Kissimmee and hop in a tent camp till the event starts? Like, or also I can find myself doing stuff where I'm not gonna, make money from it, like, like remodeling my house. I could spend a whole month in there. I can do all kinds of stuff that's actually, stay busy, but it's not productive from a financial standpoint. So that's me in real estate. So it's like, I know the area, the real estate company that I work for, the brokerage, they actually do lake homes in 34 states. They have agents on lakes. So a lot of these agents, like my mother-in-law, she knows Smith well, but she doesn't know a lot about any other lake. Well, I've been to most of these lakes before, and these agents are all over the country. So it's kind of cool to work with Lake Homes Realty, and I'm a fisherman on lakes all across the country. And so it's something that, I'm challenging myself in a new area.
So like if you're looking for land on or house or whatever, hunt land, anything there, like they can legit call you and you're their deal, you're their guy.
Yeah. You want to go tour a home this afternoon in Huntsville, or you got a house in Birmingham, you want me to list, I can do it. Well, I'll go take pictures of it, and kind of like for me, I'm the techie side, so like I can go drone picture. Like, so Swindle has some lots that I'm listing for him, so I can drone it myself, put it on Photoshop, outline the lot, get it on the MLS, and don't have to like pay somebody to do that, because I can just do it. So that's kind of my niche in the deal, is like I can do a lot of the techie stuff myself and like look up deeds and parcel layouts and all that.
Yeah.
But,
all right. So along the line, you mentioned Swindle. Here's the other thing that we talk about. Name one of these top guys that does not have multiple revenue streams, either in or outside of the industry. So guys who don't even have to, like, look at Ike. Like, there's a Iked Up energy drink. He's selling socks. Yeah. He's selling socks. He's got all sorts of different. Gerald was a perfect example of that. Like, I would love. Here's what I want to. I need to have Gerald on, because I want to talk to Gerald about the early Elite Series days immediately after ESPN bought it. He had the #1 hunting show. He had G-Man's Garage. He was, you want him, baby, I got it, catching 10-pounders. Coming off the first Angler of the Year, like that dude. And then you look at, like, he had some early non-endemics. He had the Sitco deal going. He had 2 television shows, an outdoor block, like that. Like, we talk about Kevin and Edwin and Rockstar stuff, like that 2-year period for Gerald, in my opinion.
Rockstar.
I mean, dude, like, he was on top of everything.
Yeah.
And that's a business decision, because it's not like they were like, hey, let's take the classic champ, or let's take this guy who's winning all the time. He was consistent, figured out a way to relate to the audience, caught them, obviously.
Yes.
But didn't put himself there with W's. He put himself there with business savvy.
Swindle is a random redneck, but make no mistake, he is like a comedian. He is smart. He knows what he's doing. Ike Nelly is a screamer and he's psychotic, but he is way smarter than anybody gives him credit. Like, like Swindle, he could easily just post funny videos on Facebook and monetize it. But he's a smart, like, not only is he gifted in that, aspect, that he knows how to, there was not somebody just, hey, Swindle, I got an idea for you. Let's go make some money. Like, no, he knows. He's very intelligent, dude. And that's multiple
revenue streams for all those guys. Edwin, the pecans. I've had a lot of discussions. I won't even throw his name out, but he literally was like, you can either work for a company and then it just kind of, when it ends and you're right back to where you started, or you can invest in yourself. And he's started a lure company, and now it's rolling. Like, it's the guy wasn't, but look at what John Cruz is, like, guys who are super successful, multiple revenue. Wrap this up, put a bow on it. I was at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame 2 years ago. It was literally right after I'd found out I was going to probably be taking over the Bass Zone. Jeffries was going to go bowl 9 times a day and coach basketball and yell at high school kids. Kevin walks in, big supporter of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. bring sherry every year that they're free. It's at Bass Pro Shops there in Missouri. And we're just right there. And I was just at the bar having a beer by myself. I got in there early, and he stands up. I got 2 Bud Light limes, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what's up, Kevin? Blah, blah, blah. We just start chatting. No one's there. Like, it's just hanging. I said, dude, he said, wait, what? Basically, he was like, why the hell are you fishing the opens?
Yeah.
And like, what, kind of a tongue in cheek, like, what are you doing trying to get into this? I said, what's your biggest piece of advice? His biggest piece of advice was make sure BTL is your number one priority, because the fishing won't be there without the BTL, because that's your unique. That's what's different, right? That's your unique thing, and that's the time and energy that you've put into it. And he said, at this day and age, with as much money in something, you have to have it. He said, do not forget about that as you try to catch fish.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of stuck with me like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, you got to have everybody has that. Like, I feel like if you just fish and all you do is fish, you're almost like working for another company. When your time's out, like when you're done fishing, you have to retire. The money stops flowing. It's the end of it. You've not, it's hard to just fish and just have a few sponsors and be able to put money behind for retirement or to invest in something else. That's really tough to do. You look at it back when you're talking about ESPN took over, we're basically fishing for the same check today. I don't know how much the opens has changed. Not too much since then. Like inflation and all that, like money, $10,000 is not what it was in 2006. So the industry is changing, it's growing, but it's not changing, fast enough that everybody needs to just rely on that as their, to me, the real estate stuff is a start. And, like, I'll go out tomorrow and shoot video on the water of me throwing a crankbait until 12. I'll drone a lot that's just down the lake from where I'm at. I'll come back, put on the computer, answer some emails, and then like make an Instagram post, eat dinner, and watch some football and go to bed. So I can mix in and do both. And like having people here that I count on, like my mother-in-law, Cindy, she does real estate. So like when I'm gone, she's there, if I'm something needed here. And I don't know, it's exciting. It's new. It's different, and so I don't have a Bass Talk Live yet. So like you've kind of narrowed it down to where you're like, this is my thing. This is my baby. And me, I've always just been all over the place, but I don't have that thing. And so still searching, but yeah.
Are there any helipads on Smith? Any houses with helipads? Because you get out there in the Carolinas that
yeah,
and it's like every one of those $1 million houses has a helipad.
Not really a helipad, because no. Here they have an airport next to one like big subdivision, but not a helipad. I know of.
I always wondered what those people do with those houses. Because you fish some of those houses and you're like, holy cow, everyone here has a $3.5 million house.
Well, what they did during COVID is that the house was $800,000, and then people could borrow money for no interest. So then they were willing to pay 1.2 for the house. So then they bought it for 1.2, and now that same house, somebody's coming in and want a lake place, and they'll pay 1.6 for it. And so not only is more people coming in with money that can afford to pay money for it and doing 1031 exchanges and all this, that now the people that had money or, that bought the $800,000, they're making money hand over. Smith Lake's an area right now where I don't care if you're selling hot dogs on a pontoon boat out there. You can make money if you work hard enough at it. And it's a growing, awesome place. But
don't tempt me with a hot dog stand.
Come on with that hot dog.
Hey, no, you're not. I'm not kidding. So in March, I was down in Florida, and we went out on this river on a what are the kind of paddle boards?
Yeah.
We went like 8 miles up. Started first thing in the morning. There's manatees and stuff. And on the way back, there's a hut anchored in the middle of this river. It's this dude
That's what I'm talking
who's
about.
retired, who lives there. He gets on his little pontoon straw hut, and he's got hot dogs. He's got hot dogs out in the middle. $3 cash. Now, I didn't have any cash. This is even better.
He had an ATM on it.
No, it's better. I bought 2 hot dogs on credit. So he knew based on the paddleboard where we went out of, right? Me and my girlfriend. Yeah. So he's like, oh, you're with like Tanya and Jim or whatever who are up this creek off of this river. I said, I didn't bring any cash. I didn't want it. He goes, he writes it down. He's like, got him down there. And he goes, you give him $6. And then he makes his rounds and picks up the money once a week. So I went back. I said, hey, I got 2 hot dogs from him. And they're like, oh, he got you, huh? And they're like, he's such a hustler, man. He's been selling dogs out in the middle of the river for years. And I gave him $6 from my stash back in the truck. And
it's like a credit card. If you can get it on credit to your room without having to carry anything, I'll order 12 more hot dogs than I ever thought about needing. Just bill me later.
I mean, we're in the middle of the Amazon jungle here, and I've got a steamed dog with a toasted bun in the middle of the river
all day. What you want for it?
I mean, I just jumped off the board. I was thigh high. He's like relish, ketchup, mustard, and I'm just like sitting on my board going, holy cow, this came out of nowhere.
Give this man a Celsius and a hot dog.
It was insane.
I saw you run that Red Bull. You know, on the Celsius kick yet?
I've done the Celsius. I get the Red Bulls on the cheap at a discount. Like I do the 6. It's a horrible habit. I've found as I get older, I have more and more bad habits that are going to lead to
health problems down the road.
Yeah, I need to stop doing that. I'm not as bad as Kevin Ledoux, but Ledoux will drink like 7 Red Bulls a day. The little mini ones. He treats them like shots.
You watch Bob on his Celsius, though, right?
Who?
I'll send some stuff. Bob does sports.
Oh, yeah. He's all about that.
He's awesome.
He's a good I mean, dude, he's a hustler, too. We talk about it in fishing. He did it. He's like a dude who just moved out he wanted to be in show business. He moved out to the West Coast. He worked as a bellman at a hotel and tried to do the improv and acting and then found his niche.
Randomly found Fat Perez just at a hotel gathering. And he was like a 4 handicap.
Yeah. And then he found, his friend Joe. Yeah, it's really cool. It's
so funny though, because you are that guy in fishing. You're that guy in golf.
I'm what?
You're the YouTube guy in golf. And you're talking about in fishing, like how there's people watching this, but then you switch to another sport like golf, and
Are you the YouTube guy in golf too? Do you sit down and watch that stuff from beginning to end?
No, I don't as much. Like I know Salton's big into golf, so he does. But no, I'm on like other YouTube stuff. Like I've been on this one rental at a time. Shout out Michael Zuber. Like I just watched.
Hold on, I'm on YouTube right now. Hold on, let me check this out.
I like like mainstream news. It's just not I'm just not. I don't know. I like to get it short and sweet. He's got financial news and that stuff. I like. You and I could like a lot of the same stuff. We already
rental at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like to me, like investing in real estate is almost as exciting as like selling real estate, but I'm not really at the point to be investing in it yet. But
maybe after you win Redcrest.
Yeah.
You on your stage, you go, I cannot wait to invest all of this windfall.
No, I ain't trying to invest that hard. Like if I win, I'm not going to be talking about investing it. We'll be throwing a party.
My big thing now is I got the garage to where the boat fits in, but I've got a 48 or 50 by 50 slab. I'm in the house a year, 50 by 50 slab. I was hoping I could pop and open and then boom, metal building, 48 by 48.
So, what are you saying?
I want to put the metal building on that, but I haven't done anything with it yet. As a real estate, like you can that increases the value drastically.
Oh yeah. So you just have a concrete pad.
Yeah, just a straight pad. Like my kid's 4-year-old comes over on his tricycle and just burns it up because it's just like perfectly flat cement. Puts the helmet on and just all around and peeling out and stuff. And yeah, it's just a chunk, just a slab of perfectly even concrete.
It's all right. You put something on it at some point and it'll be legit.
After the lucrative open year coming up. All right, Matt, anything else? Anything else that you want to get in here? Plug, talk about. This has been a very educational and entertaining hour and 35 minutes.
Yeah, what does anybody else hit up with a comment, something they want to know? If they didn't
I was bummed to hear Mike Leach passed away this morning.
Yes, I saw that, right?
My favorite football coach. Once again, unique, did things his own way, very analytical. Man, not a good deal there.
Yeah, not good. That's life is short, man. It's in our world, there's too much hate. There's something to be said that if you post a Facebook post that it's got weights and walleye, it's on the Fox National News the next day, but it doesn't matter what event you win, it would never be on Fox News the next day or any news for that matter, national. And, it's hate and all that stuff spreads too much in the world we're in now, where it's just like most of us have more in common than we have different. And it's just, the Mike Leach thing is it's just a reminder that life is fragile. I mean,
as a whole, I think the fishing community is pretty tight. Yeah, you have your fractions and you have rivalries and you have all that stuff. I think that's healthy. But as a whole, when it comes down to it, I think the fishing community is pretty tight.
Absolutely. That's another thing about our sport that makes it so awesome is fishing is not as big as a lot of sports out there, but the people that do fish, the community that it has is different. And it's special, man. It is. I sound like Bob now. It's real special. But it is. I mean, being able to connect with everything. That's what technology's changed fishing, but it's done a lot for, it's done a lot to put stuff like this out there that's people can tune in and communicate. And it's awesome
good stuff. All right. Well, we made it an hour and 37 without asking about, hey, what do you think about the switch to 5 fish? I think we just end it. We save it for a later time, unless you have any burning desire to tackle that.
Yeah, I think that overall, with all of that stuff, is all overrated and something to argue about. But I think we got to make it simple. 5 fish. Let's have a normal tournament with some drama. Catch them, and if you don't want to put them on stage, you can say what you want about conservation, whether they're doing it right or wrong. But there's getting to be enough people fish on enough lakes that we got to do something different. Not just talking about tournaments, but just fishing in general, or we're going to end up like Biwa, where you're trying to get one bite every time you go.
Sounds like the Opens.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you go to a tournament at the Opens and you catch a bunch of fish? Not unless you go somewhere up north where it's frozen half the year and they don't fish.
Very, very rarely.
Yeah, and it's you want to. So, but as far as Major League Fishing goes, I'm excited about the 5 fish because it's relatable. You go out and play golf, you can pretend to be Tiger Woods because you go out and play 18, and you feel like even though it's a different course, par 3, par 4, par 5, it's relatable. And from a lot of different aspects, I think it's going to be awesome. They're trying to fix a lot of things, and it's a work in progress. But I want the sport. Most guys do. They want the sport to be as big as it can be, and they're not out there to just have a measuring contest on who's got deeper pockets. It's
the interesting thing, and I don't think it's ever been talked about, is like MLF went back and ran diagnostics on what the last couple of years would have been on 5 fish because they were talking. The obvious deal is, the drama, the cut line drama would be gone.
Yeah,
and what it was behind the scenes, and they'll never make it public because there's a whole bunch of guys, and it would have been like, well, what if, or how this would have changed, because it would have been some different guys with major wins. But based on the people that I've talked to at MLF, there are just as many circumstances. And I mean, they ran back like as, last minute catches and weights and all that. And they're like, dude, there's just as much drama around the cut line with the 5 fish as there is every fish.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing they were worried about. The major issue there, though, is with every fish, when a guy gets on a run, you kind of have a time to get one of the 10 cameras. People don't understand how much money and time it costs to have these roaming cameras.
Yeah.
So around the cut line, the beautiful thing was when a guy started to make a run, you could go get a camera in his boat in 20 minutes. Well, now this is the only thing that you're going to see that's different. You're going to see a guy in 30th that catches a 7.5 or 8 pounder, and he's going to jump into the top 20, and it's not going to be on camera. That's the only thing because of that one fish. You saw it a little bit in real tight races, but usually you kind of knew those guys around it. It brings a lot more guys in a lot of the derbies with a big bite to jump in and not have that on camera. That's my take on it.
Yes, and I think there's a way with technology and the box. Everybody wonders about the box that we have on the back of the boat, and what it is it's basically a hotspot on steroids. So it pulls signal from every tower, different carriers. So Verizon, AT&T, it'll pick whichever one's best and shoot that signal to the iPad as it'll over Wi-Fi, and then it has like its own hotspot too. It comes out of the box. Its own battery, it's waterproof, everything. So that when you go somewhere and you don't even have a bar or cell signal, it still has 3 or 4. And there's a way to have it where you can live stream off every boat, I think you could charge a little bit of money, and you could, if I wanted to watch, Greg Vinson fish all day, I could pay and watch his live stream feed all day. And that way you'd also have a feed to go to if that person was not on the cut line and jumped in on that 5 fish deal, you could switch over. But there is a lot of there's a lot that goes into that that's a lot tougher than what I just mentioned. From being, it sounds easy to just a lot of people that don't, but there's something you can do there where you can actually get that footage and it won't be as cool. That's one thing about MLF that I always, their coverage does not skip. It doesn't look bad. They got live drone, then it shoots over to an angler. They're really good. It's insanely good because what goes into all that is mind-boggling. But there's little tweaks they can do to make it, and they'll get there. It's a lot though. There's a lot of people working a lot of hours on this stuff. And a lot of times not making as much money as everybody might think they make, trying to figure this stuff out to get it where it's the best product it can be. But moving there, I think it's going to be a good move.
Heck yeah. All right, dude. I'm going to let you get back to work.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Yeah.
I appreciate it. That was fantastic. Long show. Hour and 43 minutes. As far as just like straight up interview, I think you took the cake for waited till the next to last show of 2022 for the longest one.
I'm telling you, we can go. Yeah,
I know it's been a while. I was sitting there. I was working on I said, who do I want to have on the last week? I was like, I want to talk to guys I just like enjoy talking to. So I got you for today. Tomorrow, the Cajun Baby.
Oh my goodness.
Haven't had Cliff on this year.
Oh my goodness.
You want to talk about someone with a lot on their plate? He's got 4 under 6.
He's got a football team, son.
4 boys under 6 living in the bayou.
We give each other a hard time, but dude, Cliff is like one of those. He is like Cliff and Fred Rambanis might be the 2 guys that you can't tell if they blank that day or they're leading the event. There's something to be said for that when you run into the dude when he comes off the water and you can't tell whether he blanked or won the event. And Cliff he always says, life is good, man.
Yeah.
We pick each other and all that, but just to get a rile out of people. But he's awesome, man. He is a positive dude.
He is. And I think he's maybe turned the corner, and he's on the downhill as far as like raising the kids, because the last 2 times I've called him, no one has been bitten while I've been on the phone with him. And for probably, I had a streak of 3 or 4 conversations where he's like, hold on, baby, Ben just bit someone, or someone, someone was getting bit, sat on, or trampled for like 5 consecutive calls where he's like, Matty Ice, I'm gonna have to call you back. Like we've got a rugby scrum going in the backyard.
You got to get him to wear his headset and call out like just a football play. Like if you got 3rd and long, what are you calling? And give
we will. Hopefully, we'll have enough cell service for this. So, Matt,
thanks
dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, that was Matt Lee. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, wrap things up, look ahead to the last 2 shows of the 2023 season of Bass Talk Live. It's BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
All right, welcome back. Closing things out here on a Tuesday. Like I said, the Cajun Baby Cliff Crochet for the last regular season show of the year tomorrow. Day 4 with Frank Scalish. Then to wrap things up, then we take a 2-week break, come back with BTL from the new studio on December 3rd. Just got an email about the BTL clothing. Should be up within 2 days. It's good stuff. All right, big shout out to Matt Lee. Like I said, it's a lot of time commitment to just sit down and do 2 hours in the morning, as much as he had. So greatly appreciated. Also for all the live viewers and listeners that stuck with us for the entire time. Great interaction. Love reading the comments. Also, if you have not already, and I really want to talk about this at the end of the year as we do contracts going into the new year. If you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or any of the other podcast platforms, like and give us a 5-star rating, or a 4-star, or a 3-star, or a 2-star, or if you feel like it's 1-star, which is not as good as 5 stars, feel free to give it a 1-star, and leave a comment. I'd like to get to 2,000 comments this year. That would be fantastic. But that's what those who support BTL kind of look at and gives us a good litmus test. So thanks for everyone sticking around. This has been BTL. We will talk to you tomorrow with a little Louisiana theme with the Cajun Baby Cliff Crochet, everyone. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.